Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today at the Grid Deployment Office's virtual information session and career fair. My name is Aaliyah Dillon, and I'm a workforce advisor on the Grid Deployment Office's workforce development team and will be our moderator for the afternoon. We have a great line of presenters today, and over the next hour, we will provide an overview of GDO, delve into our transmission, grid modernization, discuss a lot of openings at GDO, and answer a few questions. We hope you enjoy your time with us today and become as passionate about GDO as we are. To get us started, we'll have a few words from the director of GDO, Maria Robinson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maria Robinson, and I lead the Grid Deployment Office, which is my honor and privilege. Thank you so much for joining us today for this information session and career fair. I hope that this sparks your interest in potentially joining federal service, and particularly in the Grid Deployment Office. We are extremely proud of the work that we do, both in terms of the high quality and incredibly fast pace that we have here, but also we are very proud of the culture that we have developed here, one of great camaraderie, trust, and the ability to get so much done. And we are thrilled to have an incredible mission, thanks to our Secretary Granholm, as well as the White House, who have helped to establish this office just last year. So thank you again for taking the time to join us today. And we hope that you learn a lot about the Grid Deployment Office and hopefully also apply to some positions here as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Maria. Now I'll turn it over to our external engagement lead, Dylan Reed.
Good afternoon to everyone on the East Coast, and good morning to those joining us on the Pacific. Before we provide more information about the office, the people that make up the Grid Deployment Office, and how you can join our team, I first wanted to provide context on our office and how far we've come as an office in just over a year. So upon taking office, President Biden set very ambitious clean energy goals of reducing U.S. emissions at least 50% by 2005 levels by 2030 and reaching net zero emissions by 2050. And these are incredibly ambitious goals, which is why the Secretary frequently emphasizes that it is the department's mission to deploy solutions across the United States. And fortunately, with the passage of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or bill, as we refer to it, and the Inflation Reduction Act, these provided historic levels of funding to deploy clean technologies and lower energy costs. From these laws, the department has received nearly $100 billion available for states, tribal nations, territories, and private industry partners, and over $350 billion in new loan authority and guarantees to make investments to upgrade our energy infrastructure. But with these historic investments, that led to DOE organizing itself to include demonstration and deployment of energy infrastructure, in addition to its already core mission of research and development. And that decision led to the realignment of several offices, as well as the creation of several new offices, including the Grid Deployment Office, as Maria referenced, was just in August of 2022. So through these historic investments, the Grid Deployment Office, or as we say, GDO, received $26 billion in funding available across our three divisions here, which support investments in critical generation facilities, the development of interregional transmission lines, and upgrades to our existing distribution and transmission system to support grid modernization's efforts. And at GDO, we know that these investments are absolutely impossible without partnering with our public and private sector colleagues to ensure we maximize regional and community benefits. And that includes supporting the administration's Justice 40 initiative, which is aimed at ensuring 40% of benefits of investments flow to disadvantaged communities. Today, you will be hearing from people across our team that are responsible to implement these critical programs to provide a more reliable, resilient, and affordable grid. And we take this issue seriously of working as proactively as we can to work with communities across the United States. And whether that means you're a part of the external affairs team, a technical expert, or a part of our business operations team, everyone is critical to ensuring that we're implementing this funding as best as we can. Thank you for joining today, and I'll pass to my colleagues.
Thank you, Dylan. Next, we'll hear from Gina Dondi, Chris Lyles, and Rebecca Bull from our transmission division.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gina Dondi. I'm the program manager for engagement, outreach, and strategic initiatives in the transmission division here at GDO. I'm joined by two of my transmission colleagues who will introduce themselves shortly. I'm going to start by giving you an overview of our division. The transmission division covers 3 lanes of effort. The first is in enhanced transmission planning, where we support innovation in transmission modeling, reliability, and clean energy analysis. The second is siting and permitting, both domestic and international, and we provide technical support to state, tribal, and local communities. The third is financing and facilitation, including private-public partnerships and the transmission facilitation program, which my colleague Chris will talk a little bit more about. So the lanes of effort span across 3 teams, which you have here on the slide in front of you. The commercial facilitation team, which provides capacity contracts, private partnerships, or loans to develop transmission lines and to increase resilience. The engagement, outreach, and strategic initiatives team, my team, which works across the transmission division to support policy and strategy development. We also develop and implement communications plans for our transmission programs, including website content, developing frequently asked questions and talking points, and we conduct outreach at events and conferences. The next 2 teams are the Federal Permitting Coordination and the Grid Infrastructure Permitting and Technical Assistance Team, which I lovingly call GIPTA. Those are our 2 transmission permitting teams. So they manage implementation of DOE's presidential permitting and cross-border transmission facilities with Mexico and Canada. Develop tools, resources, best practices, and provide technical assistance to federal, tribal, and state agencies. And they also conduct environmental reviews on the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, which is where we have multiple positions open. So we'll talk a little bit about those later on. The 5th team is the transmission planning team, which convenes stakeholders and conducts planning, modeling, and analysis for interregional and offshore wind transmission, and also builds and maintains planning with national labs to model capability. On this slide, you'll see some examples of our planning study, which will lead us to the next slide, where we want to talk about one of the studies that we'd love to highlight for you, which is the National Transmission Needs Study. The needs study will help inform DOE's prioritization of future funding opportunities related to transmission. And really, its primary role is to focus the attention of federal, state, and tribal policymakers, industry, and other stakeholders on the most pressing national and regional transmission needs. This study will also help inform the designation of national interest electric transmission corridors, or NITC, as you may know them. The final needs study should be published in mid-October. And then the next program we want to cover is TFP, and I'll turn it over to Chris to cover that.
Thank you, Ms. Gina Dondi. Welcome, career fair participants. Happy Tuesday to you. My name is Chris Lyles. I get to lead the commercial facilitation program, or the transmission facilitation program within transmission. Like Gina, I love the group I get to lead. I'm really excited about the effort that we're putting forth for these 3 main topics. The first being capacity contracts. So capacity contracts, which is the DOE investment in transmission line capacity to facilitate the construction of transmission lines in critical geographic areas. So really buying capacity on transmission lines that are yet to be built to encourage and facilitate the development of lines in specific areas where transmission is needed. The second being loans, which are transmission facility loans. So this aspect is meant to help develop and facilitate the development of lines in underserved corridors. So as you can imagine, as transmission has developed in the U.S. over the years, some areas of the U.S. have become underserved. So we want to develop lines in those areas using this loan program. And then third, public-private partnerships. which will encourage novel partnerships between the U.S. government and private entities to really help fund transmission industry issues that are lingering out there that we've all been trying to resolve for a number of years, and to effectively use the corridors that we have existing here within the U.S. Next slide, please. So the third example of a work product that the transmission division puts out is CITAP, or Coordinated Interagency Transmission Authorizations and Permits. As you can imagine, siting and permitting a transmission line that crosses many states can be a challenge, and it takes a lead agency like DOE to help coordinate some of this effort. And the way we do this is in May of 2023, 9 federal agencies finalized a memorandum of understanding to help with this permitting and application process, really to move the permitting of these lines along and to establish just a working relationship that is more effective and hopefully faster process for building transmission lines that need to be built and resolve some of the issues that we've identified along the way. So really, the whole premise of CITAP is really to improve the efficiency of the permitting and environmental review process, really to enhance the communication between the different federal agencies, and to ensure early community engagement in the decision-making process as well. The next and last example of transmission is offshore wind. So you can go back to the last slide if you don't mind. So offshore wind, as the U.S. develops more offshore wind generation, so think of wind generation off the coasts, you have to take this generation and bring it into the coast and onto transmission systems that may or may not exist right now. So the offshore wind team studies these transmission corridors and transmission limitations and identifies areas where transmission needs to be developed or enhanced to compensate for the addition of offshore wind generation. Next slide. So Gina, we obviously love working at GDO, so we want to share a bit with you why we love it. So one of the main reasons I ended up at GDO is because I've been in the transmission industry for 15 to 18 years or so, working with industry, transmission line developers all over the U.S. And other utilities. And I've come to realize that there are some limitations of this transmission system that we've all grown to love and appreciate in the U.S., whether you know it or not. Your cell phones, your air conditioners, and things are being run by a transmission system that was built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And we needed to do something different now. We need more transmission developed. We need different sources of generation coming into other parts of the U.S. And we get to be a part of this at GDO. And for me to see the limitations and now to be a part of the solution is really an exciting time. And then, as others have mentioned, man, the people in GDO are super awesome. Our new team is confident that they're great at what they do, and to be part of something so exciting is really an awesome part of my career journey. So, Ms. Gina, what do you love about GDO?
Good question. I love GDO because I just think it's a great place to work. We have a lot of innovative minds. Everybody is just excited to jump in and support the mission. And we're a mix of federal career folks and non-federal career folks. So it feels like an exciting startup that has the resources to support innovation and creativity. We're pretty much all remote, which is nice and flexible. And we've really built an environment where we feel like we can trust in our colleagues and we know our colleagues. So we could probably brag about GDO all day long, but we have limited time here. So we'll move on to the next slide and talk about some of the positions that we have open in the transmission division. Just a quick overview. We have a number of positions available across our 2 permitting teams, specifically supporting environmental reviews. So we're looking for biologists, archaeologists, physical scientists, a NEPA senior engineer, which does require a degree at the GS-15 level. And then the remainder of our positions are at various grades, and they may or may not require an energy-specific background, including the project manager analyst that we're looking for. And we're also looking for members of the commercial facilitation team who have a background in some of the financial aspects of transmission. So we'll move on to some of the skill sets we're looking for as well. Flexibility, of course, we're a new organization. We'd love for you just to be excited about developing new processes and programs. If you like to start new projects, you're definitely looking in the right place here. We would love to find folks who really love working with a team, who can start themselves and are good at problem solving and like to brainstorm new ideas, because we do that pretty frequently. So that's just a little bit about the transmission division writ large. We will turn it over to RJ now to talk a little bit more about her experience with us.
Thanks, Gina, and hello all. Thanks for joining us today to talk about the amazing organization and the incredible work we get to do. My name is RJ Boyle. I live in Boulder, Colorado, and I am a policy advisor in the transmission division, and I specifically work on the federal permitting coordination team. This means I support a lot of the efforts involving the environmental compliance element of the various federal permitting laws that apply to the transmission division. Most of my work involves supporting the ongoing rulemaking for the SITAP program that Chris mentioned, as well as the NHTSA program. These programs are the places where DOE and the various federal agencies are aiming to make environmental permitting and compliance for renewable transmission more expedient, more efficient, and more defensible. This is important because, as Chris mentioned, for the SITAP program, a key barrier to the build out of the transmission infrastructure that we need is the long and unpredictable process for obtaining federal permits to cross federal lands and waters, as well as those international borders that were mentioned. So DOE is trying in the SITAP program to create a centrally coordinated and well-resourced process for permitting transmission to reduce delays and in turn reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. That does mean I spend a lot of time drafting rule text for the SITAP program, also the various outreach pieces for SITAP as well as the NHTSA process. I do a lot of generating processes and schedules for those programs. I do a lot of interagency and public outreach. And I do a lot of brainstorming and problem solving with my coworkers on the tough and nuanced, legal, policy-driven, environmental issues that underpin a lot of these programs. And that bleeds into exactly why I love working at GDO. Each day I feel like I'm on the absolute cutting edge of completely altering how the federal transmission infrastructure is built and deployed. I get to collaborate again with very energized folks, trying to solve these big problems without easy solutions. And I get to be empowered and creative and brave in imagining new solutions to the problems that plague our infrastructure and our transmission system. I kind of like thinking of the fact that I get to work on like the little nuts and bolts of the energy revolution, because that's what we're trying to achieve is an energy revolution. So I feel like I get to do things that really also contribute to meeting our climate goals as a federal agency and as a country. And that's been critical to me in my career, because I want to be driven by a mission and a purpose, and I really get to achieve that here in my role. So thanks for listening. Thanks for expressing your interest. I hope you all follow up and become NEPA nerds with me, because we need them and we love them. So thanks.
Thanks so much to our transmission division. Coming up now are Ariel Horowitz and Isabel Sepulveda from our grid modernization division.
Thanks, and hello, I'm Ariel Horowitz, the Grid Deployment Office's Deputy Director of Grid Modernization. Thanks to everyone for joining us this afternoon. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk about some of the work going on in our division. The goal of the Grid Mod division is centered on activities that support grid transition broadly at all levels of the grid. By grid transition, we mean the changes to the electric grid that have to occur to enable the integration of clean generation, electrification of vehicles and electrification of energy use at the building level, and improvement of the resilience of the electric grid to threats from severe weather and climate risks that are all sort of implicated by our policy goals. We're also interested in projects and programs that improve the security of the grid broadly and support continued digitalization of the electric grid, especially at the distribution level, and enable grid operators to work in a data-rich environment across their operations and planning. In order to accomplish this, we work with a range of different types of stakeholders, including electric utilities and other grid operators, technology vendors and project developers, state policymakers, utility regulators, and local or community-based stakeholders within territories, tribes, and other jurisdictions. Next slide, please. To accomplish our work, the Grid Modernization Division has several different program teams working in different ways, mostly on programs funded through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. In general, for every program we run, we have also a stakeholder support and technical assistance function as well. The division's teams run the gamut from the state and tribal assistance team, which operates the $2.3 billion grid resilience formula funding for states, territories, and tribes program and performs related stakeholder support. The utility investment team, which operates the $10.5 billion grid resilience and innovation partnerships program, or GRIP. The Territory and Recovery Assistance Team, which supports resilience activities across the United States territories, but spends a significant amount of the team's effort on operating a $1 billion program called the Puerto Rico Energy Resilience Fund and providing oversight of the Puerto Rico 100 study, which is looking at how the island of Puerto Rico could transition to a 100% renewable system. So a lot of that team's work is focused on the recovery from Hurricane Maria and associated activities. We newly have a reliability risk and assurance team, which supports analysis of key risk and assurance issues for the electric sector and also supports compliance of all of GDO's programs with Buy American policies, security policies, things along those lines. And we also have a technical assistance and strategic analysis function, which is matrixed across all of the teams in the division and takes on a variety of different sort of special projects, analytical projects related to the division's goals. Next slide, please. Along these lines, the Grid Modernization Division's activities have supported projects as diverse as an Argonne National Labs platform for climate resilience modeling that's directed at utilities to help them plan and engineer their systems in light of a changing climate and changing hazards to their asset bases, and identification of areas in Puerto Rico that are likeliest to experience prolonged electrical outages given a severe weather event so that we can target deployment of resilient solar and storage systems to the most vulnerable residents. So we're really trying to work at all, sorry, if you can go back one slide. We're really trying to work at all levels across the system and in a variety of different modalities to accomplish the goals that I mentioned earlier. Next slide, please. We have several open positions in the Grid Mod division. We're excited to add folks to the team who are interested in these topics. We're broadly looking for staff that can support program operations and really help move the ball down the field in order to get funding out into the world where it can have the most impact as we stand up these programs. And with that, I'm happy to hand it over to Isabel Sepulveda in my division.
Thanks, Ariel. Hi, everybody. My name is Isabel Sepulveda. I work on the Grid Resilience and Innovation Partnership Program, that is GRIP for short. Our program has $10.5 billion in grant funding to distribute through several rounds of competitive calls for grid modernization projects. We have 3 topic areas, and I'm responsible for the Smart Grid grants, which are focused on communications and data-enabled grid operations. The other topic areas are grid resilience and grid innovation. We will be funding projects across the country, working with small and large utilities, nonprofits, vendors, state and local governments, and tribes. So the GRIP program will really touch a broad range of both technologies and stakeholders. I'm so glad to be able to share my experience with everyone interested in joining DOE. Right now, we have an opportunity to make a transformational change in the US electric grid, and I'm really excited to be part of that effort. We're actively hiring on our team, and we're looking for people who are similarly motivated to enable a cleaner energy landscape for the future. So, to tell you a little bit more about my role and about our team, I'm a senior project manager, and my primary responsibility is managing the competitive selection of grid modernization projects that we're funding through the Bilateral Infrastructure Act. On a daily basis, that entails overseeing the review and selection of proposals, ensuring that we have correct documentation in place, managing data analysis, and contributing to communications efforts. Once grants are awarded and funded, I'll focus on ongoing project oversight. As project managers, we need to ensure that grant dollars are being spent correctly and that projects are moving forward on schedule and according to plan. We're also responsible for ensuring that the administration's policy priorities are being carried out through this work. This includes the Justice 40 initiative, which aims to have at least 40% of project benefits flow to disadvantaged communities. In terms of hiring, we actively look for a variety of professional backgrounds. So that includes engineers with a technical focus, but also people with policy, economic, regulatory, or project management experience. As an example, the people on our team have professional backgrounds in tech, utilities, energy markets, state and local government, and other areas. Diversity is also very important in our hiring decisions because we believe that a diverse team is a strong team. As with the majority of GDO, our team is almost entirely remote. However, even though we are located all over the country, I'm located in Tucson, Arizona, for example, we've been able to develop a really great team dynamic, and we do work really closely as a team, which I think is important. So with that, I would just ask that you please reach out to the email address that we'll provide at the end of the presentation if you think you'd be a good fit for the Grid Modernization Division or any other part of GDO. Thanks, and I'll turn it back over to Aaliyah.
Thanks so much to our Grid Modernization Division. Next up will be Pat Hoffman and Lindsay Gutierrez from our Generation Credits Division.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. My name is Pat Hoffman. I am the Principal Deputy Director for the Grid Deployment Office, as well as the Acting Senior Executive for the Generation Credits Division. The Generation Credits Division supports two critical components of our electric generation fleet: nuclear energy and hydroelectric generation. As noted on the slide here, since 1960, 20 nuclear plants have retired due to economic reasons, and our hydroelectric fleet has an average age of 54 years. Therefore, this program is about financial investment to support these assets, as well as conduct analysis to improve the operations of competitive wholesale markets in the United States. It is really critical for these markets to operate and function to provide services and reliability to the electric system. So if you're interested in how nuclear or electric hydropower generation technologies work, as well as how the markets work, this program is for you. We do look at how electricity prices are competed in the wholesale markets. And I always akin it to that if you have interest in the structural operations of the stock market, being engaged in this type of a program would be of interest to you as well. As our electric system continues to transition to clean energy, these resources will be critical for system reliability and flexibility. We want to make sure that there is enough generation when the sun is not shining or the wind is not blowing. Specifically, this program provides financial incentives or credits, which will support continued operations and improve performance of these critical assets. Please, once again, at the end of the presentation, if you're interested in these types of technologies, look at the website and have an interest into applying to the program. Next slide. The types of skill sets that we are looking for really is looking at positions that want to understand the market operations, looking at economic positions, folks that are interested in statistics or analyzing electric markets. We are also looking for technology individuals that want to know more about nuclear or hydro investments, as well as revenue and cost analysis. In addition, we also look for skill sets that will allow for performance management, program design of such credit type programs, as well as monitoring of performance. So with that, I would like to turn it over to our employee spotlight, Lindsay Gutierrez.
Hello and good afternoon to everybody. As Pat said, my name is Lindsay Gutierrez. I'm located on the West Coast in Listener, Washington, which is near Portland, Oregon. So to give you a little background about me, before I joined GDO, I was a financial analyst at Bonneville Power. I worked with the project management team for new and upgraded large capital transmission projects, and I was mainly focused on budget and forecasting. However, I was a contractor for BPA for 12 years, and I got the opportunity to apply for GDO and just felt that it was a good next step for my professional development and that it would give me the welcome challenge that I need. I was hired only in this past February in GDO. And with GDO, I'm always challenged. I'm learning a lot, and I feel like I'm contributing to providing U.S. citizens with the reliable energy. I help support the Civil Nuclear Credit Program, which is also known as CNC. I'm a project manager there. As Pat kind of said, you know, the CNC program is a $6 billion program with the goal to reduce the retirement of existing nuclear power plants due to economic factors. The program was implemented through the bill, as people have said, or the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And our funding could last as long as 12 years. Nuclear power provides reliable energy without producing air pollutants, which is a great thing for green energy. I work mainly alongside our program manager as well as senior technical advisors to manage scope, budget, and the schedule for each award cycle. This includes high-level planning, analysis, as well as managing the details of agendas, risks, financials, and the lessons learned so that we can improve on our processes. Much of my job is coordinating more, depending on the team of our team members, to make sure we're achieving the expected deliverables within the appropriate timelines that we're given. The majority of our team, as many people have said, is remote, and we work across the US, so we're working across different time zones. So we've had to create, and I've had to create new ways to connect the team so that each person, when they're in meetings, is heard, feels valued, and contributes to the team. And it's a difficult thing in our remote culture, but as people have said, it's very beneficial. This means though we've had to learn how to utilize the new technology as well as our traditional methods to make sure that everyone's collaborating and we can accomplish our work. With the program department being new, a lot of my job on a day-to-day is creating processes and procedures to support the program. I also coordinate with our CNC team to create the reports, complete reviews, finalize the program and leadership decisions. On top of that, I help with administering and improving the system that our CNC team uses to receive and evaluate applications. Within this role, I've been able to just utilize my existing skill sets while also learning new ones, which is great. I have enjoyed tremendously working with GDO. Everyone really just works to make things happen. I think Maria said that we are at light speed going so fast, we are just working to get it done. And there is not a mindset of we've always done it this way, which has been very much appreciated. We encourage, we as individuals are encouraged to try and implement new ideas. Even in my short time here, I've also been able to share my knowledge with other departments within GDO, such as our budget team, because I have my financial background, and transmission facilitation planning with Chris Lyles, who you've heard from earlier. I've got to help with their program. And I just love that GDO is all about collaboration. It allows me to continue to grow in my knowledge and feel a part of our larger team. Not just my program team. I get to be a part of the larger GDO team. So thank you so much for your time, and that I hope that you can join our great GDO team.
Thanks so much to our generation. Now we'll hear from Kate Nielsen, Director of our Workforce Development Team.
Okay, thanks, Aaliyah. Welcome, everybody. I'm Kate Nielsen. I am GDO's Workforce Development Director. So good afternoon to those of you who are on the East Coast, or I guess still good morning for those of you who are in the West. I am so happy that you could join us here for this session. And now that you've heard about our teams, our work, and our exciting mission, we'd love to tell you a little bit about our hiring process. And we hope you're as excited to apply and join us as we are excited to meet you. So we have grown very quickly from this time last year when we had fewer than 20 employees to now having over 100, but we're not done growing yet. Hence, we're excited to talk to you today about these opportunities. I wanted to highlight that we're using a streamlined hiring process. I'd like to briefly explain. Candidates apply through DOE's Clean Energy Corps, also known as the DOE applicant portal, which is hyperlinked on this slide. And all folks who are here today will receive a copy of the slides after the event, and you can pop on that hyperlink or go to the DOE external website and type in Clean Energy Corps, and you'll find the applicant portal there. When you apply to the Clean Energy Corps, be sure to add the reference code or the hashtag GDO virtual fair so we know that you attended this event. In addition, you can also email us directly at gdorecruit@hq.doe.gov to express your interest and also reference that same hashtag, hashtag GDO virtual fair. When you email us, if you know what areas interest you based on what you heard here today, please let us know. And if you don't have a specific interest, that's fine too. So for those of you who've applied to other government jobs via the USA Jobs website in the past, I wanted to let you know that at this point, GDO does not have specific vacancy announcements on specific to GDO announcements on USA Jobs because we're using that Clean Energy Corps portal to identify and engage with talent. If you are a successful candidate, you will eventually be asked to apply to a broad DOE vacancy announcement on USA Jobs, but that will be after you have interviewed with us and moved forward. In addition, I wanted to mention that many of the opportunities you heard about here today are in the management and program analyst job series. Some of them are in the engineering job series or physical scientist job series, amongst others. And we have grade ranges ranging from a GS9 all the way through a GS15. And lastly, GDO does have a physical presence. It's in the Forrestal Building, DOE's headquarters in Washington, D.C. So we do offer positions in Washington, all of which are also eligible for telework. But many, as you've heard here today, of our team members are working remotely. In fact, we have employees in more than 20 states, as well as territories, including Puerto Rico. So we are, bottom line, looking for the best talent we can find, the most diverse talent that we can find, regardless of location. So we really hope to hear from you. I will just reiterate what I think you've heard here from my colleagues. The culture in GDO is one of the most exciting, passionate, and mission-oriented organizations I've ever worked for. The team is forward-thinking, it's collaborative, it's supportive. It's a great place to work. So we'd love to have you join us. And now I will turn it back over to our moderator, Aaliyah, for some question and answers.
Thanks, Kate. And as Kate mentioned, we'll have some time for Q&A. So our first question is, about how long does the GDO hiring process take from application to job offer? And I will field this one to you, Kate.
Thank you, Aaliyah. So GDO's recruiting process, as I mentioned, is streamlined, and it can move quickly from the point that we identify a candidate in the Clean Energy Corps or that applicant portal. There are some factors that are outside of our control that may prolong the process, such as the candidate background check, but we have had some candidates come on board with us within 2 to 3 months of their initial interview.
Thanks, Kate. And our next question, I understand that GDO is a new organization. Can you explain how GDO fits into the larger DOE organization? And if Pat, you'd be able to answer this one?
Sure. Thank you, Aaliyah. So GDO is a critical organization, and we actually lead the department's deployment activities for the electric grid. You've heard about the transmission activities that we're strongly invested in, as well as our resilience and grid modernization activities that we're trying to drive in the United States. And we are also looking at how do we improve market operations and some of the generation fleets of hydroelectric or nuclear power plants. So we are very much responsible and an important aspect of the department for its deployment mission. We do closely coordinate, of course, with our science and our applied energy offices to look for the next generation technologies that we want to deploy and really have capitalized in the United States. But our mission and our goal is really to go after that deployment, that reliability and resilience in the electric grid in the United States.
Thanks, Pat. Another question we had was, does GDO have entry-level positions, or are you looking for mid to senior level employees? And if Kate, you take this one.
Yes, so GDO does offer early career opportunities, including some positions starting at a GS9 level. And we also have mid-career and senior opportunities as well. So we virtually have entry points for folks who are, in the early part of their career or mid-level, as well as very senior level.
Thanks, Kate. And something else we had come in was, can the manager speak to how they see their organization maturing in the next year? What priorities are on the horizon? And if Chris, Pat, and Ariel, if you'd like to take turns tackling this one.
Yeah, I can go first. Thanks for the question. Again, Chris Lyles, commercial facilitation. So what that looks like for my group, right now I've got 3 people on board. My group will eventually be built out to 10. So I'll likely hire 7 folks in the next 3 to 4 months. But for workload, right now the commercial group or transmission facilitation is really working on deploying funds, to facilitate the development of transmission. So for the next couple of years, we'll be deploying those funds. But as we, make selections, make awards, we'll really be switching to managing the products that we acquire through this facilitation, whether it's capacity contracts or public-private partnerships. If we acquire a product through this process, we'll migrate from deployment to O&M management of these projects. Thank you.
I will jump in next with respect to the generation credits program. What we really want to go after is recognize leadership in supporting the hydropower and nuclear assets in the United States. We want to make sure that we have best-in-class assets, that we're able to modernize these assets and be able to extend their life and their operations. We recognize the importance of these assets. So what our goal is to have regular financial announcements for financial incentives and really have the recognized leadership in demonstrating the role that these assets can play in supporting the reliability of the electric grid, but also the value that it provides in participating in electric markets.
Yeah, I think on the grid mod side, I would agree with Chris that we're moving into a grant management universe where we're, in addition to moving programs along to actually select projects, we're going to be looking at monitoring those projects, providing support to project proponents over the course of funded work, and making sure that we're collecting the right information to inform our future programming, inform sort of policy development, inform the market going forward, and really disseminate those success stories and those best practices that we're working on funding. And then in addition, obviously, we are looking to get up to fully staffed so that we can support both of those sides of the house, the moving through additional grant funded work and monitoring and managing the projects that we have, and then doing that technical assistance that goes on top of that to really bring out what those best practices are and what those strategic scopes of analysis are that will move the field along.
Thank you. Another question we received was, a lot of these positions at GDO sound interesting. Do I need specific experience in the energy sector to qualify for roles within GDO? And if Gina, if you'd mind fielding this one.
Yeah, thanks, Aaliyah. So not necessarily. Some of the positions across GDO do require subject matter expertise that's specific to energy, but many don't. So I am an example of that. I came from an emergency management background, and the skills that I learned at FEMA, I think, transitioned nicely into working for GDO. So I would advocate to our attendees that you shouldn't be afraid to apply. Just remember that a lot of the skills you've obtained in your career are transferable. And just look at the posting and see what the requirements are. Thanks.
Thank you. Something else that got asked was, can you work remotely for GDO from outside the United States? And Kate, I'll throw this one over to you.
Okay, thanks, Aaliyah. Yeah, we do see this question a lot. And so as I mentioned, GDO's workforce is geographically distributed. So we have employees actually in Hawaii and Puerto Rico, as well as West Coast and East Coast. However, federal employees are not able to work remotely from an international location. So that is not possible.
Thanks. And another one of the questions was, if I've already applied through the Clean Energy Corps, do I need to reapply using the hashtag GDO Virtual Fair? And if Kate, you could address that as well.
Yes. So I do know that a lot of folks here, we advertise this session to a lot of folks who are already in the Clean Energy Corps, so you may already have applied. You do not have to reapply to the Clean Energy Corps or the portal unless your preferences or your resume has changed. So if you'd like to update your areas of interest or submit an updated resume, you can reapply through the portal. But if you've already applied, you don't have to reapply in conjunction with this session. Your existing candidate profile will be updated automatically with the referral code just by the fact that you registered for this event. So no further action needed, and we will have your profile hashtagged with this for this event.
Thank you. These were some great questions. And if we could move to the next slide, please. So I just wanted to say again, thank you all for joining us today. We hope you've learned a lot about GDO and all of the groundbreaking work we're doing and the opportunities to become part of our team. All of the slides presented today will be shared. And please remember, as Kate mentioned, to apply through the Clean Energy Corps if you have not previously done so, and use the hashtag GDO Virtual Fair. Please also write to us in our emails right there, gdorecruit@hq.doe.gov, if you have any particular interest and what we spoke about today really sparked your interest in our organization. We really hope to hear from you soon, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thanks for being part of our information session career fair.